Hi, my name is Chris Cavalinas. I'm a student at McHenry University in the Doctor of Nursing Practice program and a clinical nurse manager on the ENT plastic reconstructive surgery floor. Today's presentation is for Nursing 750, Strategic Leadership, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship. First off, I want to welcome you and thank you for this time in your busy schedules. As the senior leadership team, I wanted to bring you together today to discuss complexity leadership theory. Can anyone describe the philosophy of complexity leadership theory? Well, I see no hands, but that's all right. Complexity leadership theory is eloquently defined by Horvat and Filipovic 2018 in that complexity leadership theory conceptualizes leadership as a continuous process that stems from collaboration, complex systems thinking, and innovative mindsets. It moves away from providing answers or providing too much direction to creating the conditions in which followers' behaviors can produce structure and innovation. Over the next 25 minutes, this presenter will be discussing an overview of complexity leadership theory to include the benefits, challenges, organizational impact, and what it will take to incorporate this leadership theory into practice. During our time together, there will be a focus on four main expected outcomes. In looking at complexity leadership theory, we will define the key elements, identify organizational benefits, describe organizational challenges, and analyze the organization impact of introducing complexity leadership theory. The lens through which complexity leadership theory views leadership creates a picture of leadership as an organic perspective focused on emergence, interrelationships, and fostering innovation. Complexity leadership theory emphasizes the act of leadership instead of the individual leader. As each leader interacts with another leader, they are free to look to the institutional culture and choose to follow, disregard, or modify how they react. This creates a nonlinear outcome where the same issues can create different results. Small changes can create a ripple effect to create large consequences. This unpredictability in reactions create tension that challenges the status quo within organizations to create an environment that must be reviewed globally and not just the individual pieces. This creates an adaptability that boosts innovation and overall performance. The complexity leader will establish a need for change based on this tension and inspire innovation. Davidson et al. 2017 lists 3 behaviors of leadership found in complexity leadership theory. These include administrative leadership, adaptive leadership, and enabling leadership. So to elaborate on what we just said, the key elements include administrative leadership, adaptive leadership, and enabling leadership, as well as complex adaptive systems, or CASs, and then characteristics of innovative leadership, which include boundary spanning, risk-taking, visioning, leveraging opportunity, adaptation, coordination of information flow, and facilitation. Administrative leadership is the formal organizational hierarchy, alignment, and control to include the chain of command. For the nursing staff, it would be the chief nursing officer, directors, managers, and other supervisors. While complexity leadership theory does not focus on the leaders, some formal leadership must exist for organizations to function. Adaptive leadership pushes emergence to create change. Adaptive leadership is the combined actions of multiple players interacting. These collective interactions are completed by involving the people using bottom-up communication and endowing personal power. Enabling leadership is the inspiration for innovation. Enabling leadership brings together the many sundry players to instigate self-organization and the actions of the adaptive leadership so emergence can ensue. In other words, enabling leadership helps to create internal tension and help the staff to morph the tension into innovation. Complex adaptive systems. These three leadership styles with complex leadership theory can be grouped into what is formally called a complex adaptive system. A CAS is defined as a collection of individual agents or staff with freedom to act in ways that are not always totally predictable and whose actions are interconnected such that one agent's or staff's actions change the context for other agents. These agents or staff are linked in a common dynamic by common goal or need. Long et al. 2018, page 3, lists and describes the three features of the complex adaptive system. Embeddedness or nestled systems. CASs are embedded within a wider context and other CASs. Fuzzy boundaries. System boundaries are permeable and hard to define. Distributed control and self-organization. System patterns are not created by top-down control. Instead, autonomous agents interact to create outcomes. Thus, organizations in a CAS emerges naturally from local rules held by agents. Emergence. Interactions between agents create system outcomes that are not directly intended and are greater than the sum of the individual agent behaviors. Unpredictability. The behavior of a CAS cannot be predicted due to its nonlinearity, sensitivity to initial conditions, and historicism. Nonlinearity. The magnitude of system input and agent interactions is not linearly related to the magnitude of changes in the system. A CAS can react suddenly to minor inputs or fail to change despite overwhelming external pressure. Phase changes, where a small change in the system inputs results in a qualitative change in the system state. Sensitivity to initial conditions or historicism. Future agent actions are affected by past changes in the system, leading initial conditions to exert a strong influence on system behaviors. The non-equilibrium. CASs are characterized by continual change and do not reach equilibrium. And finally, adaptive and coevolution. Agents and systems evolve together, reacting to changes in the context to ensure optimal functioning and survival. As stated previously, change and innovation are central to complexity leadership theory. There are 7 characteristics of innovation leadership. These are boundary spanning, risk-taking, visioning, leveraging opportunity, adaptation, coordination of information flow, and facilitation. Each one holds a unique benefit for the organization. Boundary spanning can be likened to the concept of networking. This practice is connecting groups that are seemingly unconnected and takes place among staff without consideration of their role. Boundary spanning has many benefits. It can increase the experiences discussed within the organization by obtaining ideas and guidance from outside the organization. Additionally, it can help procure additional resources for innovation. Risk-taking is displayed when staff and doctors start to use untested technologies or interventions to help evaluate these new practices. External and internal pressure must be balanced with organizational fit by the staff. This act is considered risk-taking because supporting evidence is minimal or non-existent, and the implementation process is unknown. A benefit of risk-taking is generating new information about innovation and helps support an opportunity to assess, learn, understand, and integrate the innovation. This process is completed through trial and error. It will be important for the leader to create a safe environment where risk is encouraged and errors are dealt with through course corrections and not punishment. Visioning must be completed in groups to be successful. It is important for all to be on the same page with regards to the expected outcomes and the path to get to the outcome. This can also be described as macro leadership to include strategic planning, resource support, gathering funding, and moral support. The big benefit to visioning is that it helps individuals together, helps bring individuals together for a common goal. It also helps create buy-in and a sense of autonomy because the process was created for the group by the group. Leveraging opportunity is the act of considering creative solutions to the environmental opportunities presented by the individuals. Leaders are more effective when they orchestrate a team to conquer organizational issues. The largest benefit to leveraging opportunity is this action encourages outside of the box thinking to help overcome obstacles and create unique solutions to barriers. Adaptation occurs in a multifaceted way. The relationships between staff and groups is constantly changing as innovation is implemented. This shift leads to a change in roles as new opportunities present themselves. A benefit associated with adaptation is that the network is strengthened, causing changes to the adoption of innovation and overall success. The coordination of information flow allows the staff involved in innovation to impact the sharing and interpretation of the information. The staff creates the message to explain the relevance while using connections and relationships to influence the sharing of new information. Being able to create the message and influence the interpretation of the message is the biggest benefit to the coordination of information flow. Facilitation is all about helping staff put the innovation into a context that shows relevance to their workflow. This process helps move the leader from controlling activities to assist staff in obtaining the correct information to make their own decisions. An advantage to facilitation is that it fosters engagement and can result in staff beginning to manage the situation. This practice creates ownership of the innovation and new skill development for the staff through implementation of a new practice or new technology. There are some overarching benefits to complexity leadership theory. Complexity leadership behaviors have been shown to improve team performance, increase the ability of the organization to adapt and innovate, and promote quality outcomes. Additionally, feedback and overall communication flows multidirectional, down from the upper levels of management to the staff, flows up from the staff to upper management, plus also across from staff to staff. This increase in the number of contributors creates increased creativity, influence, and power behind the change to realize better outcomes. There are some challenges to complexity leadership theory that should be highlighted. Many of the features that help make complexity leadership theory a great setting for innovation can also be seen as challenges. Life experience and personal perspectives from each staff member cause the individual to act, react, and interact in unpredictable ways. This unpredictability, coupled with unclear boundaries, make it difficult to implement new innovative practices. Evaluation can be problematic because the many moving pieces require the innovation to be considered as a whole and not as each individual component, which makes it not yet feasible to confidently evaluate the efficacy of complexity-informed interventions. Another hurdle for complexity leadership theory is that it is a shift in a paradigm and a new way of thinking. Leaders must move out of the comfort of their silos and accept a loss of control. The current trend is that leaders are expected to intervene in everything, everywhere, at all times, and display mastery of a growing list of competencies that would stretch the powers of any CEO superhero. Complexity theory, on the other hand, would allow staff to be adaptive and self-establishing, creating a culture where they could unite themselves without external control. Leaders should strive to build teams based on the 7 innovative leadership characteristics. Having droves of staff exhibiting these characteristics would set the stage for a great impact on the company and the patients. Boundary spanning and risk taking would help to improve the flow of innovation or the flow of information and set the stage for the potential of extraordinary outcomes. Evidence-based practice through pilot projects can be effective for testing innovation while limiting risk. Most important to creating innovation is the thoughtful process of development. The big areas that must be considered are the fit with the organizational values and culture. The innovation must add value to the organization or improve patient outcomes. The culture is not something that is taught, but something that is created from within each individual in the organization as they follow their interpretation of the mission and vision of the organization. The features of complexity leadership theory align well with the mission and vision of Barnes-Jewish Hospital, also known as BJH. That mission is providing world-class healthcare, advancing medical knowledge, and continuously improving our practices. And then the vision is being national leaders in medicine and the patient experience. The tenets of complexity leadership call for the inclusion of all staff with multi-directional communication and input to establish an innovative system. Not only is communication important in the development phase, but it transcends into the implementation phase. A vital piece is to keep all abreast of changes and updates to the process. Solicit feedback from those that will be affected, because this helps create ownership and support. Policies and procedures must be updated to reflect any practice changes and to encourage a non-punitive culture regarding innovation and risk-taking. Policies to set rules and boundaries, while important, should leave enough flexibility to allow a degree of managerial discretion with the implementation. Finally, there should be additional staff to allow for the execution of the innovative practices. There are several resources needed for the implementation of practice of complexity leadership theory. The first two go hand in hand, which would be role overload and staffing. Not only are additional staff needed for the actual implementation, but there are additional staff needed for the ongoing continuation. Staff are currently overloaded with tasks that need to be done each shift, many times more tasks than time will truly allow. Staff, including leadership, will need additional help to support time for innovative thinking and implementation of the evidence-based projects. Adjacent to those needs are the financial resources. The organization will need to make a financial investment in the implementation of a change to complexity leadership theory. This financial investment will include salaries for the additional support. Additionally, funds for supplies and equipment that will be trialed. Finally, there needs to be manager support. This support needs to be felt from upper management as well as middle management that are in the trenches implementing the innovation. Healthcare organizations need a milieu that encourages innovation, learning, and improvements to propel healthcare outcomes to new heights. Complexity leadership theory challenges prior thinking and actions to reframe the method used to embrace innovation. Today's presentation accomplished the expected outcomes. There was a discussion on the 11 key elements of complexity leadership theory identified by this presenter. Multiple benefits and challenges to complexity leadership theory were contemplated. Finally, there was deliberation on the impact of the introduction of complexity leadership theory into the BJH culture. At this time, I'd like to ask if anyone has any questions regarding the information discussed. Yes, you in the back, go ahead with your question. Okay, in case anyone had trouble hearing the question, it was asked, it seems like we are already doing this at BJH, but we are calling it transformational leadership. What's the difference between complexity leadership theory and transformational leadership theory? And that is a good question. Marion and Ulbien 2002 explain the difference. Both theories recognize leadership in the drive towards vision and inspiration, but the difference is their view on control. Transformational leadership engages the group for ideas, but the leader continues to hold the control, as in top-down leadership. In complexity leadership, the control is dispersed to the group, or bottom-up leadership, and within the subtleties of the system. Are there any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll end by saying thank you again for your time to discuss complexity leadership theory. Please feel free to reach out to me if you think of any additional questions or comments. The following 3 slides list the references used in the creation of today's presentation. Please have a great rest of your day. Thank you.